Hey, and good evening, everyone. This is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christian American Magazine. I want to welcome you all to the broadcast today. I hope everybody's doing really well today. Forgot my glasses someplace. Been looking for them all over the place, but I evidently am not going to find them. Maybe I'll find them during the break or something like that. I want to welcome you all to the broadcast today. Hope everybody had a great weekend. It was an incredible weekend, wasn't it? A lot of crazy stuff going on. Hopefully you were able to make it through it. Hope you weren't in the fires that are in North Carolina. The whole thing, it's just been crazy. And so just hope that you're all just fine. For those of you, this might be the first time you're checking out the show. I'm Pastor Sherman Ray. And we've got this show we call Christian American Magazine. It's really all about how Christians are involved in the political process, and we look at what's going on, trends, policies, things that are happening politically. And I know some people are thinking, well, why would the church or anybody religious get involved in stuff like that? Well, it's very simple. You can trace back to the Old Testament all the way through the New Testament, where you had men and women of God. You had Daniel, you had Joseph, you had Abraham. You had all these people that were called upon by their government to get involved in the running of government. And it's really up until the last few years that you've not seen people as connected politically who are in the pulpit. And really, that's not scriptural. It's just not really supposed to happen that way. And so this is really looking at those people who are in government, people like Mike Johnson, people like Donald Trump himself, the President of the United States, who are involved in politics, who are led by their Christian principles. And so that's what we look at, those things. And because it's really important that we encourage you, especially if if you're thinking about running for office, we really encourage you, get in there, get in the process, get in as quickly as you can. I ran for a public office myself back in 2019, I believe it was, and ran for city council here in Las Vegas. Came up short. Learned a lot about the political process at the time, and found out that it's an ugly sport, folks. I mean, it's not even pretty. It's not even close to being pretty. And so we just want to encourage you, if you're thinking about running, get involved, folks. Maybe it's your cup of tea. Maybe you got that thick skin that you can actually get involved in the process. Well, let's take a look at some of the things that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk a lot about what happened over the weekend, where President Trump had a meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. He and Vice President J.D. Vance. That whole meltdown, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some of the things that are going on with some of the Trump nominees for his cabinet who just were put into office, which is great. Also going to be talking a little bit about some of the policies that the Trump administration is trying to implement that Democrats are really opposing, which I'm perplexed by that. I mean, I'm just really perplexed that they would go against some of these policies, especially when those policies are just common sense policies. And lastly, we're going to talk about, and I don't have it in my notes here, but it's something that came off the top of my head that might lead the show off with, is in New Jersey, place where I was born at, that New Jersey, which is typically a blue state, is now swinging to be a toss-up state. Can you believe this? Yeah, Scott Presler was out there. He was on Fox News earlier today, and he was talking about how they've been doing a lot of work there, a lot of work in precinct by precinct, county by county, and that they really believe that come next election cycle, which is the midterms, which is this in 2 more years, that you're going to see can you imagine if a state that was reliably Democrat could be swayed to being a conservative state? Can you imagine that? And so, you got to just be in prayer about this. This is probably one of the biggest pieces of news that we could probably hear of. The next one would be California. Or could you imagine New York flipping or becoming a red state, becoming a toss-up state? You see, over the last, during the election cycle when in the 2024 race just recently in November, Kamala Harris, running as a Democrat, was banking on the fact that she could win what they called the blue wall. Okay, there's a blue wall. There's a bunch of states. Some of them there in the Great Lakes area, and some down near Pennsylvania and North Carolina. That's kind of like Georgia. These states, they call it the blue wall, and those are states that are reliably Democrat states. And so, if they're reliable Democrat states, that the Democrats could count on the fact that these states were going to become voting blocks for them, electorally, popular vote. Well, Donald Trump not only broke that blue wall 2 election cycles in a row, but this time he just decimated. I mean, it was completely an obliteration. He won all the swing states, and those reliable votes that Kamala Harris and the Democrats thought they were going to win, they all went away. So now it looks like this is going to happen again. Now it might happen in the midterms. So we're really looking forward to seeing that happen coming up. Want to remind you folks, if you're watching us for the first time, and this might be your first time checking out the show, we encourage you to go over to our YouTube channel, and we're on the Godstream TV YouTube channel. And we're probably going to end up moving off of there and having our own channel, for Christian American Magazine. But we encourage you, go ahead and subscribe to that. We're actually going to be starting our own channel. We'll move all of our content over to that channel on YouTube. But you can also watch us on the Godstream YouTube channel, or you can just go to Godstream TV and Google or search in the search box up there. Just search out Christian American Magazine. Okay, so let's start. What are we going to start with first? Let's start with this story about this Boston mayor. Now, there's a Boston mayor that this story's over the weekend. There was a man who stabbed a couple of people. I'm going to read this. This is actually a Fox News story. The mayor, her name is Wu, Michelle Wu, and she was responding to her critics, because after this suspect had gone through and stabbed at a few people, not killing people, but the police opened up fire on this person with this knife and killed the man. Okay? That's what happens when you're crazy. You just go out there and you get killed. Well, the Boston mayor had a press conference, and what she said in the conference was just kind of shuddering, because she said, you know what, we were so sorry because of the loss of life of this assailant. Never once saying anything about the people who actually were assailed, the people who were almost got their lives taken by this guy. And so they gave her a second chance on this. And this, let me read you the story. It says, Boston Mayor Michelle Wu responded to critics who accused her of being excessively sympathetic to a would-be stabber who was killed by the police, accusing them of politicizing the situation. Yeah, the suspect, who's identified as 32-year-old Lamarck Jaramillo, was killed by an off-duty officer after he allegedly tried to stab at least 2 people in a Chick-fil-A restaurant near Boylston Street. The officer identified himself and instructed Jaramillo to drop his weapon before pulling the trigger, the police said. So, Mayor Michelle Wu, who has been doing this, she's been doing this a lot, folks, where she's basically looking at situations and saying, we're going to side with the perpetrator, we're going to side with the woke folks, we're going to side with the, crazies out there, instead of siding with the people who are the normal people, just normal, everyday people who are just trying to live their lives. And that's just kind of the crazy part about Michelle Wu. There's a story out of Breitbart, and this story is about another, just a, I don't know what you would call her. Nut job. Let's call her a nut job. Kathy Hochul. She's the governor of New York. She received, now she's getting sued here, folks. This is very interesting. This is a Breitbart story. It says Kathy Hochul received union help for rigging a bid of $9 billion for a home health aid program. Wow. And this is, I mean, this, you know, you got to say something about Democrats. When they do things, they don't go small. They go big. I mean, they go big in a big way. I'm actually looking around for my glasses because it would really be nice to be able to read something. Yeah, what I'll do is in a break, I'll go get my glasses. But New York Governor Kathy Hochul, her administration has faced lawsuits alleging it rigged the bidding process for the state's controversial overhaul of a $9 billion home health care program. A December lawsuit alleged that the powerful healthcare union, 1199 Service Employees International Union, SEIU, helped Public Partnerships LLC secure a multi-million-dollar contract to help a contract to take care of payment services for the Consumer-Directed Personal Assistance Program, the CDPAP. Several lawsuits have sought to unravel Hochul's overhaul of PAP, two of which allege a rigging bidding process by the governor's administration. Wow. Yeah, some things just never change. Yeah, some things never change. Excuse me. Some things just never change. And it looks like Kathy Hochul, maybe this is the reason why she had so much mercy on Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, because she's as dirty as the day is long. Yeah, this is pretty sad. I just don't understand sometimes where these folks who are working for the people can somehow get it wrong. You know, we were doing a study this Sunday, and we're talking about, you know, how in the Old Testament, the children of Israel, and this right at the tail end, the kings, right, or the judges, and they said that to Samuel, Samuel, we want a king, just like everybody else. And and when he reported this to the Lord said, go back to those people, go back to the children of Israel, and tell them this, that this is what's going to happen to you if you have a king other than me. And all these things, it was 15 things that were going to happen down this list of things, that they're going to skim off a tenth. They're going to get the best of everything for themselves. They're going to give things to their friends and their buddies and everything else. Right? It's exactly this story right here, guys. This is exactly what Kathy Hochul is doing. And it seems like that's kind of the MO of these politicians who have been entrusted with the will of the people, power, prestige, influence, and what do they do with it? They abuse it. And it's really kind of a sad commentary. If you'd like to write to us, folks, and you'd like to find out more about what we're doing over at Christian American Magazine, go ahead and write to us at christianamericanmagazine@gmail.com. It's christianamericanmagazine@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you, folks. And check out our website. We're on Godstream TV. So check out our Godstream TV channel. Love to have you hear from us. And we're going to try to make this, we're going to expand this thing as time goes on. But I want to thank everybody who's been watching us, who've been checking us out on Instagram, that we've been trying to keep up with. So many things going on here at the magazine. And so we're going to be building this thing out more and more as time goes on. Keep praying for us, folks, because we got a lot of things going on. We really do. But you can write to us at Christian American Magazine. We would love to hear from you. Maybe we'll get some Christian American Magazine gear. We'll get like the patch and stuff like that, and you get some swag and hats and stuff like that, right? Might as well. Gavin Newsom is in the news. This is out of Breitbart. Gavin Newsom he's copying Elon Musk. Many of you know who Elon Musk is, the richest man in the world. He's also the volunteer who came on to assist President Trump with an organization called DOGE, and DOGE is the Department on Government Efficiency, and so they've been going around just cutting with the big, recently, Elon Musk was given this big chainsaw by, I think it was the, Guatemala? Was it Guatemala? Don't quote me on that. He was given a big chainsaw by a Latin American leader, and there's a kind of I don't know, a way of saying, hey, this is what you're doing. You're cutting waste with this big chainsaw. So, Gavin Newsom, though, the governor of California, he's in the Breitbart article, and he's taken a page out of Doge, and he's ordering his employees to come back to work. Wow. This is amazing. So, let me read this to you. California Governor Gavin Newsom ordered state employees to return to the office for at least 4 days a week on Monday. Boy, I knew he'd wimp out. We knew he'd wimp out. He's definitely not going to go, you've got to be here 5 days out of the week. No, you can be here 4 days. We'll give you a 4-day work week. Told him to come back Monday, copying a policy on Elon Musk's Department of Government efficiency used at the federal level. An executive order, Newsom cites the work from home and hybrid policies that are the legacy of coronavirus lockdowns. He does not cite Doge, except to say that fired federal workers might be available for state jobs. Okay. This is pretty cool. So it looks like Gavin Newsom is going, well, this is not a bad idea. Maybe we should have people who get paid by the federal government. Maybe we should have them come back to work. So you can't blame the guy, because he's got to do something, because he's just losing it. Let's take a real quick break. I'm going to go grab my glasses, folks. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about what happened this weekend with President Trump. You want to stick around, and you've got to see this, folks. It was a great thing. So we'll be back in just a second. Hang on. All right, and we are back, folks. This is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christian American Magazine. I want to thank you all for sticking around with us, and we're having fun here. I went and got my glasses. I had to go get them because I can't read. It's very hard. There used to be a time when I used to fake it a lot. You fake it. You go, hey, I can get along without reading, without glasses and reading. No, not anymore. I just don't do it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's hard, and it makes it very tough for me to read. Want to welcome you all back to the show, and we're going to get into some topics here in this next segment that I think you're going to really like, especially if you missed what was going on all weekend long, folks. It was what do they call it? Hootenanny. Yeah, that's my new word, hootenanny. And this was President Trump met with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky at the Oval Office, and didn't go as well as he thought it was going to go. It was supposed to be a signing. So this is what was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a signing ceremony. They had negotiated rare earth minerals in exchange for weapons and payback, for the because America has been supporting Ukraine for the last number of years in this war against Russia, and so President Trump said, "Hey, well, how come we're not getting anything back from this? Why aren't we getting anything out of this at all?" And so they said, "Let's do this. We will continue to support you in exchange for what we've already given you, which is couple, that $100 billion, will negotiate a partnership with you for rare earth minerals that you've got there in Ukraine, which is, and so from America's perspective, they're saying, hey, this is a win-win for everybody. If we've got boots on the ground, we've got people working on getting this stuff out of the ground in Ukraine, guess what? Russia's not going to continue to go after you, because that would be crazy. They don't want to hurt Americans, so they're going to back off. Ukraine didn't see it that way. And so when Zelensky went to the Oval Office, he basically kind of became a jerk. And now, from what Marco Rubio says, our Secretary of State says, he says, you know what, this has been going on for a little while now. I mean, it's been going on for a little while. We thought we had a deal. He would just, drag his feet. He would, do this or want to do that. I guess he wanted a vanilla shake, whatever. It just became something just silly. And so they thought they'd gotten it all down. Now we're down. Let's come on. If you're ready to deal, if you're ready to pencil something out, let's meet at the Oval Office and we'll do it. And we'll have this formal, I guess what would they call it? It's basically just kind of for show meeting. Okay, we'll say hello, ha, and then we'll go into the other room, we'll sign the paperwork. Zelensky gets into the Oval Office. Here was the funny thing about it. He shows up at the White House. They had arranged for Zelensky to wear a suit. They said, look, Zelensky, and many of you have seen this guy. I mean, I dress better than Zelensky. At least I'm wearing, pants. So Zelensky shows up at this meeting with Trump. Trump's always in a suit. I mean, rarely do you even see him without a tie on unless he's playing golf. Zelensky shows up, doesn't even have a suit on. And they had arranged with this guy to wear a suit. Okay, all right, so he didn't wear a suit. Not a big deal. Shows up at this meeting, and he sits down, and within a very short while, they found out that this guy was not ready to deal. He was not ready to deal, and then him and J.D. Vance got into it. You've heard of Scud missiles. They're shooting Scud missiles at each other. And then Trump gets in there and he goes, now Dad's there. Dad comes in. You ever seen this? Dad comes in the room. You got kids fighting, right? Dad comes in. He goes, let me tell you something. Let me tell you something. The fingers are pointing. The hands doing the gesturing. And 2 minutes later, get out. He kicks Zelensky out. The deal is off right now, or it's on hold right now. So, here's the story. Zelensky ends up leaving as quick. I mean, he gets kicked out. He got kicked out of the White House, or he just got kicked out. Didn't even have to get the lunch. They were going to have lunch. Didn't even get the lunch. He leaves, and now he's and now what are you going to do? So here's the story. The story here is about what it's going to take to get him back. And so here's what Trump did. Trump says basically that, the arms that they've been giving to Ukraine, they paused it. Yeah, they paused all the next shipment of arms to Ukraine. Now, can you imagine this, folks? Here's the story. President Trump ordered a pause of all U.S. military aid to Ukraine on Monday, days after he kicked Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky out of the White House following a heated Oval Office meeting between the leaders. The pause will remain in effect until Ukrainian officials demonstrate a good faith commitment to peace negotiations, a White House official posted. The president has been clear that he is focused on peace, the official said. We need our partners to be committed to that goal as well. We are pausing and reviewing our aid to ensure that it is contributing to a solution. So here's the deal. It was heard that Volodymyr Zelensky told other people that peace between Russia and Ukraine is a long way off. It's a long way, and Trump's saying, no, this ain't going to happen. We are not going to continue this. We're not going to be doing this a year from now. If we're going to, now here's the cool thing about Trump. Trump is a deal guy. He's going, look, I can get Zelensky to the table. I can get Putin to the table. But if I can't get you to the table, guys, guess what? There's no peace. And Zelensky obviously does not want peace right now. So Trump is going, look, okay, fine. You don't want to sign the deal about the rare earth minerals. So guess what? You're going to come to the table because we're going to cut off all your aid and see how well that does. See how long that lasts. I can guarantee you by this after, well, it is what, 8 o'clock Vegas time? Not even 8 o'clock Vegas time yet. You're probably going to see Zelensky getting up there, or people are asking for his head. And they're going to say, Zelensky, you need to have a come to Jesus moment because this thing has got to end. And so Trump says this is what's way it's going to be. You know, the president has been very, very deliberate in some of the things that he's been saying. I mean, he's been so emphatic about this that he's these other nations are starting to go, man, you know, this guy's he's hard nosed. There's another story. This is an SNRN story. This is out of Washington D.C. and this is that President Trump says there's 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian imports. It's going to begin tomorrow. Yeah, this is good. President Donald Trump said Monday, 25% taxes on imports or tariffs on imports from Mexico and Canada would start Tuesday, sparking renewed fears of a North American trade war that already showed signs of pushing up inflation and hindering growth. Tomorrow, tariffs of 25% on Canadian and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. And that'll start, Trump says. Told reporters in the Roosevelt Room they're going to have to have tariffs. Now here's the thing about it. The president said to both of our neighbors, one to our north, one to our south, our largest trading partners, okay, Canada and Mexico. He said, look, two things are happening that we cannot continue to see happen. One is the influx of people into our countries, illegally into our country. That happened over the last 4 years. We've had 20 million, some people think 30 million people come through our southern border, through Mexico. Here's the thing about it. Through Mexico. They knew it was going on. They did nothing to stop it. You had people coming through the north too. So you had northern people coming through Canada, coming down here. So that was number one. You need to help us close the border, and they drug their feet on it. And number two, fentanyl. Fentanyl coming through our southern border, the precursors, the building blocks for this coming from China and then being cooked up in Mexico, coming through our southern border. I heard a report on this. This was very interesting. So the report I heard on this was that the amount of fentanyl that came through our southern border could kill 50 billion people. Not million, 50 billion people. That's the amount of fentanyl that has come through our southern border that has been interdicted by our feds, our drug enforcement folks, through our ICE people, through our border control. All these people have been stopping all this stuff. China has been systematically trying to kill Americans. And the president said, we're done with that. But you guys allowed this to happen. China, Mexico, Canada allowed all these drugs to come floating into America. And here's the deal. I guess they thought that, oh, well, we're helping you now, reduce the number of people that are coming into the, through the border. Okay. Yeah. I think last year it was 8,000 a day, something like that. Now it's down to like 800, something like that. I mean, it's really super. It dropped precipitously. But you guys think that just because you help close the borders that things are fine with us, that everything's just great, okay? The president goes, no. You guys allowed this to happen for 4 years. Under the Biden administration, you knew what was going on. You saw through Mexico, there were caravans. Caravans of people. thousands upon thousands of people coming on trains. They were on trains. Remember those? Many of you saw those. You know, the train rides of people coming through, coming from Guatemala. I mean, coming from over 150 countries, coming through our southern border and through our northern border, just flooding our country. And now you guys think we're just going to forget all that stuff. No. And the president said, no, it's going to start. So this was in February. Trump said he put a 10% tariff on imports from China. He re-emphasized Monday that the rate would be doubling to 20% on Tuesday. You know, so this is me, guys. China is our number one adversary militarily, economically. For some reason, they believe that they can be the number one economic power in the world by subterfuge. I can't say the word. Subterfuge. By cloak and dagger, by stealing intellectual property, by doing whatever they're going to do. They don't want to do it the old-fashioned way, you know, by building a better mousetrap, by coming up with ideas on their own. They don't want to do any of that stuff. They want to do it. They want to steal intellectual property. They want to dump on other economies. They want to loan money to people and then say, hey, guess what? You can't pay us back right now. They'll be like loan sharks. Yeah, we'll just take that port from you. We'll just take that piece of land from you. And that's how they do it. Okay, which is just, and so America is just starting with China. The great thing about being in America and being an American is we are just an innovative juggernaut. We have the freedom, we have the know-how, we have the spirit, entrepreneurial spirit to do what we do. And China does not have that. No, it's a state-sponsored thing. And guess what? They're it's like the thumb's on, right? The thumb is on them. And if they don't do it, then, you know, the government gets in it. And the government owns everything. So really there's no real reason why people would just sweat and stay up late at night creating something because they know it's not going to be theirs. Unlike America, guess what, guys? We have the innovators and we have the people who will stay up late at night to do all those things because we know that we will actually get the lion's share of it. And so that's we've got some things to worry about. We really do, and we need to continue just to keep looking at this. Those of you, this might be your first time checking out the show. I'm Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christian American Magazine. We talk about some of the great policies and some of the people who are born-again Christians who are in politics, and we talk about trends and strategies and legislation, that kind of stuff, that we believe you need to know about, folks, especially if you're going to run for office, okay? Especially if you're going to get in the public sphere and you're going to go out and try to help, you know, Americans out. So, so we look at those people that are in office right now. Once again, people like, you know, Tulsi Gabbard, you know, people like Katie, what's Katie's last name? Katie Bryant, I think is her name. Some of these great people, Marco Rubio. We've got some great Christians that are out there that are serving our country, just like Daniel did, just like Jacob did, Joseph did, and so we want to encourage you. If that's you want to start running for office, boy, keep watching us, folks. Keep watching this and be encouraged because you're out there on the front lines. You'll hear about people on the front lines that are making a difference. One of those people is Linda McMahon. So Linda McMahon, many of you knew that she used to be part of the, she was SBA. So she was the SBA administrator during the first Trump administration. And the reason why I know that is because I met her. And I met with her on 2 occasions. I think it was on 2 occasions. And just a wonderful lady. And so she just got confirmed. The Senate confirmed her to lead the education department. And so here's the funny thing about this. This is an AP story. Let me read it first, and then I'll kind of give you some background. Senate voted Monday to confirm former wrestling executive Linda McMahon as the nation's education chief, a role that places her atop a department that President Trump has vilified and vows to dismantle. Okay. McMahon will face the competing tasks of winding down the ed department while also escalating efforts to achieve Trump's agenda. Already, the Republican Party has signed sweeping orders to rid American schools of diversity programs and accommodations for transgender students, while also calling for expanded school choice programs. At the same time, Trump has promised to shut down the education department. Now, here's the thing about it. So the vote was on pretty much along party lines. It was 51 to 45. So here's the interesting thing about it, is that Linda McMahon knows that her department is due to be axed. As a matter of fact, they've already removed a lot of the funding for it. They've been doing all kinds of things to rid themselves. The education department didn't start until, I think it started in 1980, something like that. They didn't. This was not something that started as, part of the Constitution. It was none of that stuff. It started fairly. It was in the last 50 years that the education department started. And has it done its job? I would think that honest people would say no, it's not. As a matter of fact, a lot of money is being sent to Washington, D.C., being doled out by the education department to the states. Why? Why is that needed? And that's the biggest thing that President Trump is saying. He's saying, look, we are number 40 out of the industrialized nation of states. We're number 40 on a list of like 41. We're at the bottom of the barrel, but we are the number one country in our per capita spending for our students. I'm going to say that again. We're number 40 on the list ranking, which means we're at the bottom of the barrel of modern industrialized nations. But we're the number one country on spending per capita of students. We are not getting our bang for our buck. And so, Democrats do not want to have parents, or don't want to have school choice. They don't want to have private schools. They want to keep everything in with public schools. Even though if you go to Washington, D.C., well over 51% of the people who live in Washington, D.C. send their kids to what? Private schools. Oh yeah, they do not send their kids to public schools. They send their kids to private schools. Why? Well, because they want their kids to have a great education, so they don't send them to public schools. So if it's good enough for our statesmen, if it's good enough for the people who live in Washington, D.C., why isn't it good enough for you? Why isn't it good enough for me? Why can't we have the choice? I ask you, Democrats, why is it so important that your kids can go to private schools, but my kids can't? And you won't even allow this. So the Trump administration is doing all it can to end the education department. Send the money directly to the states. Let the states decide what they're going to do with their money. There's no reason why you're paying these consultants and another layer of bureaucracy all this money to set policy in areas where you probably know best what's going on with your kids. Okay? Here in my state, our educators probably know exactly what's best for our citizens, okay, and what's going on in our particular state. And it's different than what's going on in Florida. It's different than what's going on in New York. It's different than going on in Texas. Okay, we have our own bio thing here. We got our own economic thing. We got our own sphere here. We should be able to take that money without half of it going to the education department. And so Linda McMahon is going to probably try to unravel what's going on with the education department. Why are we having such failure rates? And number two, do all she can just get rid of it altogether. Okay, super sweet lady though, folks. I met her a couple of years ago. I think it was 2020. I met her, and super nice lady. So can't wait to see what she's going to do. as she was just confirmed. And it looks like President's cabinet is almost all the way there, folks. Very cool. So very, very excited about that. Let's take another break, folks. I got another great set of stories we want to talk about here. And so we will be back in just a minute with a little bit more talk about what's going on at the FBI. Okay. So this is Pastor Sherman Ray. This is Christian American Magazine. We'll be back in just a minute. And we are back, folks. This is Pastor Sherman Ray, and this is Christian American Magazine. I want to thank you all for being part of the broadcast. Many of you probably, are still kind of scratching your head about this whole Vladimir Zelensky thing. It's pretty big. What's going to happen in Ukraine as a result of this? Only time will tell. It really will. It's crazy. It's very fluid right now, but we just keep our hearts and minds and keep praying for the folks that are in Ukraine. Okay. So there's a story. This is an AP story. The head of the FBI, the New York bureau, he said he's retiring. Yeah, he's retiring. And this is a very interesting story. The head of the FBI New York, his field office. Let me get a little bit there. Was reported to have resisted the Justice Department efforts to scrutinize agents who participated in the politically sensitive investigations, told coworkers on Monday that he has retired from the Bureau after being directed to do so. His name is James Dennehy, said in a message to colleagues obtained by the Associated Press that he was told late Friday to put in his retirement papers, but was not given a reason. The move comes in a period of upheaval at the Bureau as new FBI Director Kash Patel took office last month. Like 3 days ago. And as conservative podcast host Trump loyalist Dan Bongino has been named to serve as deputy chief. Let's read a little bit more of this. It's a very interesting story. The Bureau also remains in turmoil over a highly unusual demand for Justice Department for the FBI, this is very good, to turn over a list of thousands of agents who participated, get this, in the investigations related to the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. The January directive was seen by some in the Bureau as a possible precursor to mass firings. Okay, so this is very good. Dennehy, a retired Marine, was among those who resisted the order, vowing in a message he wrote to colleagues that he was prepared to dig in. Yeah, according to a news report. Okay, so that's very interesting too. So we've seen this. This is kind of like what's going on. Many of you have probably heard of this whole lawfare thing, and where the Biden administration was using the Justice Department to get their way, to basically get their way and to try to make sure that Donald Trump couldn't run again. And so the FBI, CIA, people in, this group, NSA, all these groups of people were used, and the Justice Department under the Department of Justice were weaponized against the Trump administration to make sure that Donald Trump did not become president again. And they wanted to put him in jail. Okay? And So here's the cool thing. Many of you have been watching the news lately. And it's one of the things that we've seen lately, especially as President Trump has gotten into office in the Department of Justice, is you've been seeing a whole lot of crap. Just like shaking a tree, and all of a sudden all this stuff starts falling out of it, right? So they have found, and there was a story, we won't have time to get to it, so I'll just allude to it now, where they had 100 people were fired out of the I'm going to find the story. Tulsi Gabbard had to fire it's tons of people. Not going to be able to find the story. But anyways, Tulsi Gabbard had to get 100 people who were a part of basically a big porno ring in DNI. Yeah, these people were talking about their transgender stuff, and they're getting body parts cut off and wearing women's underwear. It's just disgusting. It was just disgusting, okay? And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Then they find out that Elon Musk, as he's kind of taking Doge and he's going around this department, that department, this department, that department, that all of a sudden, all this money is just floating away. You've got literally 3 million people, okay? Quote me on this. 3 million people who are being paid Social Security that aren't even alive, okay? These people are 150 years old. How many 150-year-olds do you know? How many 100-year-old people do you know, okay? There's not even that many 100-year-old people in the whole country, okay? There's a lot of money floating around all over the place. January 6th, let's go back to January 6th now. January 6th, and I don't have proof of this, all I have is anecdotal evidence that President Trump, January 6, 2021, the president is starting to leave the White House. He's got a bunch of Trump supporters who come to D.C. to show their support, and they're not happy about what the results of the election because they believe it's been stolen from them, and there's once again anecdotal evidence to support that. But they meet with President Trump, and he goes, I know some of you guys are going to be going over to the Capitol Hill, and you're going to be peacefully protesting to show your support for what you think, and that kind of stuff. Well, they get up to Congress, the halls of Congress, and then all of a sudden things go sideways. All of a sudden you get people going, come on, let's go ahead and storm the Capitol building. Let's go ahead and storm it, okay? And then all of a sudden, you see people shaking on, and you got this riot going on, right? And yes, you got a bunch of people, literally people coming up the stairs, going in. But here's the thing about it. Who started this? Yeah, that's the trick about this whole thing, okay? The reason why I am... And so some people believe it was actually the FBI, that the FBI actually had people inside of this crowd of people instigating and inciting these people to riot, instigating and inciting these people to go and storm and go inside. Now, here's the thing about it. Nobody was killed. Nobody was hurt, anything like that as a part of this. One person was killed, and that was a protester who was shot by a security guard for the Capitol Police. Okay, that's the only person that died. All of these people, literally hundreds of people, were arrested, and as a way of sending a message to anybody else who would ever even think about showing any resistance to the new regime, people were thrown in jail. They had hearings. They did all this stuff. People are still, and actually President Trump pardoned all these people. But now, I guess they never thought Trump would ever get back in office, because now they are going back and they're saying, we want to see all the paperwork. We want to see all the documents. We want to see all the reports. We want to see we want to lift up everything to see what is underneath that rock, so we can get and this is Kash Patel, and this is the Department of Justice now, the new Department of Justice. because these folks never thought that anybody would ever go back and take a look at this stuff. No, they didn't. And so this FBI director's gone, nope, I'm quitting. I'm digging in. I'm not showing you guys nothing. The same thing happened with the Jeffrey Epstein documents. And this was Pam Bondi, who's now the Attorney General. She said, hey, we want all these documents. She was sent, a couple of hundred pages of paper, all redacted and everything else. And she said, wait a minute, where are all the documents that are supposed to be here? We heard that there was more documents here. And she said, you guys have got, and she heard through the grapevine that a field office had all the documents and that they just refused to give it to you. And she said, I will have those documents by Friday that afternoon, which was just a couple days ago. And sure enough, they had to back up a truck to get all these documents. This is exactly what's happening in this story right here now. The FBI, okay, James Dennehy, is saying, I'm digging in. You're not getting any information from me. And as a matter of fact, I'm not going to give you anything. And they said, you need to probably retire then, buddy, because we're going to get this paperwork. You need to leave because we're going to get this paperwork. Very interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Now, Kash Patel is the head of the FBI now. Guess what? Kash is going, open them up the doors. Open up the doors. Wherever you need, guys, we'll get it for you. Okay? It's very, very good. I love this stuff. Many of you heard about, gosh, which one? Okay, let's go to now. This is a Jerusalem Post story, and this story is about. Many of you know that over the weekend you had another set of anti-Semitic protests, and one of them was at Barnard College, and these wow. These students took over this college, or part of the college, in their support for Hamas and the Palestinians, or the Philistines, and in opposition to the Jews who were massacred October 6th, October 7th. A third, and this story is at the Jerusalem Post, and it says a third Barnard College anti-Israel student activist was allegedly expelled for actions at Columbia University on Friday, according to a Monday Columbia University apartheid divestment statement, which comes days after a Barnard administrative building was occupied by protesters demanding that 2 previous activist expulsions be revoked. Whatever. Okay, the activist was allegedly expelled for their involvement in the April occupation of Columbia's Hamilton Hall with this organization called Quad, or CUAD, asserting that the decision on the several month-long disciplinary process was both an act of intimidation against participants on the Wednesday protest and to placate a Friday Justice Department anti-Semitism task force probe of Columbia. So here's the interesting thing about it. People are calling for the heads of these protesters who are going in and blocking this college from people who paid money to go to these schools and intimidating these Jewish students. America is a melting pot, and one of the things we learned in America is how important it is that the diverse nature of our country be respected. See, America is not this. Okay, it's not this. Okay, it's not the way we speak. America is here. It's in our heart. And if you come and you live here in America, guess what? You know that you're different than, say, Ecuador, Brazil, Russia, Paris. We are a whole different animal. We don't all speak the same language. We all have the same ideal. It's in our heart. So these people are going around going, oh, you Jews are this and you're that. That goes against everything America is. And so there needs to be a squashing of these guys like bugs. That how dare you ever imagine that you could tell people that a college should divest themselves of any involvement with Israel just because you say so. Who are you? My goodness, this is ridiculous. I get so upset about this. As an African American, this reminds me of back in the 60s when you had civil rights marches and you had a group of people that would say, well, we don't want black people to be able to go to our schools because we are I don't know what they thought. But this is the same thing. You got a bunch of people who say we support this and we don't like you, so you can't go to the school here in America. Okay? I don't think so. And so if they expel these kids, guess what? That's what you get. Right? If you get expelled from school because you decide that you're going to step on somebody else's constitutional right to go to a school of their choice, then that's your choice. You ought to think about it. Now, you can say whatever you want. I mean, you can be upset and you can be upset that the fact that you think the Palestinians have a right to kick the Israelites out of the land that God gave them. That's up to you. Okay? That's up to you. You can be all upset you want, but you cannot stop these people from going to school. Any school they want to. This is America. This isn't some third world country, yeah, even though sometimes it seems that way. But you can't do this. You just can't do this in America. We've just got about one more minute, folks. Let's end with this one, okay? So let's go back to a story that we talked about before, and this is very interesting. That President Trump, we were talking about the whole Zelensky thing and how the president kicked Volodymyr Zelensky out of the White House. And he says, you know what? People were asking, and this is a Jerusalem Post story, people were asking, they said, President Trump, how can Volodymyr Zelensky come back? Is there a way of making this right with you? And here's his response. He says, senior Republican politicians reacted to Friday's meeting between Trump, Vance, and Zelensky, with European officials stating the White House demands a public apology, according to Bloomberg. And so this is very interesting. It said the Trump administration has privately made it clear it wants a public apology from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in order to mend relations between the two countries. Okay? That's all he's asking for. Just say you're sorry. Okay? President Trump is he's a very sensitive guy. And in America, guess what? You have just spit in the face of the country that is saving your butt. You need to say you're sorry. Hey, just say thank you. Say, hey, thanks. I really appreciate what you guys are doing for us. Okay? We are not asking for you guys to, jump through hoops. A simple thank you is in order. Okay? And because you bit the hand that has been feeding you, maybe now you need to apologize and say, hey, Mr. President, hey, we are sorry. We are really sorry. I was a little hot. Okay? I was a little upset. Okay? Here's the interesting thing about Trump. Okay? And I've met guys like this before. They will fight you. Okay? But deep down, the guy's got a soft heart. And you did something to America that should not be done. Okay? If we had not stepped in, Mr. Zelensky, if America and America's kindness had not stepped in, you would not even be here today. And that is just the truth. And as a result of that, maybe you should stop for a minute and go, you're right. We were wrong. Thank you guys for providing us all that you've provided for us. And you didn't have to. Because your European friends didn't do it. Can you remember those people you went running to after this was all over with? And you went running up to them, hey, I need a hug. Okay? None of those guys provided you with javelins. They didn't provide you with tanks. They didn't provide you with armament. They didn't provide you with this, that, or that. None of them provided you with this stuff. America did. All those other places that provided you with anything, guess what they said? We'll let you borrow it. America didn't do that. Okay? until we found out that that's what the Europeans did. You were duping us the entire time, okay? Because you probably should have said, hey, we will pay you back, okay? But you didn't do any of that stuff. Okay, you just took, and you took, and you took, and you took. Now it's time for you to say, I'm sorry. Okay? Anyways, this has been Pastor Sherman Ray for Christian American Magazine. Thank you guys for being a part of the broadcast. Once again, folks, if this has been something that's been really cool and you've really thought that this really touched you, I really encourage you, check us out on our YouTube channel, which is Godstream TV. We'll actually be getting our own channel here pretty quick. Also, you can go on to Godstream TV and check us out on Godstream TV. We'd love for you to be a part of that. You can write to us at christianamericanmagazine@gmail.com. It's christianamericanmagazine@gmail.com. And let us know. Just encourage us, okay? Maybe we'll get some swag and you can get some Christian American magazine, some cam gear, okay? We'll call it camo gear, okay? That you can actually get. Anyways, thank you guys once again for being a part of the broadcast. We will see you again. I don't know. We'll see you again in a couple of days, okay? You guys have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.